Emma had always believed love was something that happened once. After her divorce, she had given up on the idea of finding it again. Life became a cycle of work and caring for her son, Liam, who had grown up watching her carry the weight of two roles, mother and father. But then David came along. He wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't sweep her off her feet with grand gestures. Instead, he brought quiet attention, helped carry groceries, remembered Liam's favorite meals, and spoke with the kind of calm confidence that Emma hadn't felt in years. Liam, at 16, was mature beyond his years. He'd seen enough to know when someone was pretending. Still, he wanted to believe David was different. His mother's smile had returned, and her laughter no longer felt forced. That was enough for Liam to try. He kept his reservations to himself, watching as David blended into their lives like he belonged. The house felt warmer, dinners were no longer silent affairs, and Emma seemed lighter, like a burden had been lifted. David often stayed over on weekends, helping around the house. Liam noticed small things, the way David always kept his phone face down, the occasional glance that didn't seem quite right, a nervous laugh when Emma asked where he'd been. But these were fleeting moments, easily brushed aside. Emma trusted him, and Liam wanted to trust him too. Still, the unease lingered. One evening, while David was preparing dinner, Liam caught a moment, a text notification on David's phone, the name unfamiliar, the message hidden. David's quick reaction to turn the phone away set off something inside Liam, but he said nothing. He didn't want to ruin what Emma had built. He didn't want to be wrong. The days passed, filled with small joys, movie nights, shared jokes, Emma humming while she cleaned. David was attentive, affectionate. He kissed Emma's forehead before leaving for work, complimented her cooking, asked Liam about school. It was easy to believe everything was fine. And yet, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't. He noticed David's late returns, his vague answers, the shift in his tone when he thought no one was listening. Emma remained blissfully unaware, caught in the comfort of companionship she had missed for too long. She trusted David with her heart, her home, her son. Liam tried to mirror her faith, hoping the unease was just a remnant of past scars. But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered caution. He couldn't ignore it for long. Liam didn't want to be the problem. He had seen his mother broken once, and he wasn't eager to trigger that again. But doubt was becoming harder to silence. One night, passing by the living room, he heard David on the phone, his voice low but affectionate, too affectionate. "I miss you too. Soon." Liam froze, unseen. David ended the call quickly, glancing around as if to make sure he was alone. Liam stayed silent, heart pounding, questions flooding his mind. The next day, Liam decided to watch, not confront. He began noticing patterns, David stepping outside for calls, deleting messages, arriving home late with flimsy explanations. Emma asked no questions. She was too happy, too invested. Liam tried to hint, to raise small concerns, but she dismissed them gently. "You're just being protective. He's good to us, Liam. Let him in." Her words felt like a wall. Liam knew pressing too hard would push her away. Instead, he began keeping notes, a journal where he logged times, conversations, inconsistencies. Not out of obsession, but responsibility. He couldn't rely on vague feelings. He needed truth. Emma's trust blinded her. Liam couldn't afford to be blind too. David's charm was steady, but Liam noticed the cracks, the way he avoided direct answers, how he'd changed the subject when Emma mentioned the future. Liam's frustration grew. He felt alone, unheard, stuck between loyalty to his mother and suspicion of a man she loved. The burden was heavy. He watched Emma cook meals with care, laugh freely, plan small trips with David. She had opened her heart again, unaware that it might be at risk. Liam questioned himself. What if he was wrong? What if he was seeing ghosts where there were none? But the signs wouldn't stop. One evening, David left abruptly, claiming a work emergency. Liam, curious, called the office number David had once given Emma. No one answered. Later, David returned with a flimsy excuse and a distracted air. Liam didn't confront him, not yet. He needed more. Each unanswered question, each suspicious glance, was a piece of a puzzle Liam was determined to solve. His relationship with Emma strained. She sensed his distance, asked if everything was okay. He nodded, unwilling to hurt her with half-truths or guesses. Inside, he was torn, wanting to protect her while fearing the truth might break her. The silence between them grew, filled with things neither dared to say. Liam knew the moment of reckoning was near. He could feel it in David's guarded behavior, in Emma's hopeful smiles, in his own restless thoughts. Something wasn't right, and soon there would be no way to avoid it. Liam didn't sleep that night. The tension had reached a point where silence was no longer an option. Something inside him said the truth was close, waiting to reveal itself. The house was quiet, but Liam couldn't rest. He paced, thoughts spinning, questions unanswered. Around midnight, he heard a faint sound, voices from Emma's room. It wasn't unusual, but something about the tone felt wrong. His gut told him to check. He hesitated, then moved quickly, his heart racing. He knocked, no answer. The voices stopped. Without thinking, he pushed the door open. Emma sat on the bed, tears streaming down her face. David stood across the room, caught off guard, holding his phone. The room felt heavy, thick with tension. Liam didn't speak. His eyes met Emma's, and in that instant, everything was clear. She wasn't hurt physically, but emotionally shattered. The trust she had given so freely was gone. David's mask had slipped, and the truth stood bare. Emma had seen the messages. While David was in the shower earlier, his phone buzzed with a message he didn't expect her to see. She opened it. What she read left no room for doubt. Affectionate words, plans to meet someone else, a string of messages that painted a clear picture of betrayal. She hadn't confronted him right away. She waited, heartbroken, trying to gather herself. Now, with Liam in the room, the confrontation could no longer be avoided. David tried to speak, to explain, but there was nothing to say. The evidence was undeniable. Emma, through tears, told him to leave. Her voice didn't rise. It was firm, steady, filled with pain but not rage. David didn't argue. He packed a few things, said nothing, and walked out. Liam stood beside Emma, not triumphant, not relieved, just quietly supportive. The moment wasn't about being right. It was about loss. Emma broke down once David left. Liam sat beside her, silent, giving her space to feel everything: the betrayal, the disappointment, the realization that love had once again failed her. She apologized, not because she owed him anything, but because she regretted not listening, not seeing the signs. Liam didn't blame her. He never had. He simply held her hand, the unspoken bond between them stronger than ever. There was no anger in that moment, just sadness. A chapter had closed, painfully, but necessarily. Liam's instincts had been right, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. Emma, though hurt, had clarity. The lies were over. The truth, though painful, was a relief. Now, they could begin again, just the two of them, without deception clouding their home. It wasn't the ending Emma had hoped for, but it was real. And sometimes real was enough. The days that followed were quiet. Not empty, but peaceful in a way that allowed Emma and Liam to breathe again. David was gone, and with him, the weight of uncertainty. Emma didn't talk much about what had happened, but her actions spoke volumes. She returned to her routines, slowly reclaiming the parts of herself she had given away. There were moments of silence, moments when she stared off, lost in thought, but there was no collapse, no bitterness, just a steady resolve to move forward. Liam noticed the change. His mother was no longer waiting for validation or affection from someone else. She seemed centered, grounded. One morning, she handed Liam the small journal he had used to track everything. "You were right to trust your instincts," she said simply. "I should have listened." Liam didn't need an apology, but her acknowledgement meant everything. It wasn't about being right, it was about being heard. Emma began making subtle changes. She signed up for an evening class she had always talked about but never pursued. She started cooking meals for herself, not for anyone else's approval. She and Liam spent more time together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They laughed again, genuinely, and their conversations grew deeper, no longer clouded by hidden concerns. One afternoon, as they walked through a park, Emma said something that stayed with Liam. "It's not about who leaves. It's about who stays and why." That was the essence of their bond: resilience, loyalty, and trust. They had faced betrayal, but it hadn't broken them. It had revealed what truly mattered. Emma didn't speak ill of David. She didn't need to. His absence was enough. The space he left behind was filled not with anger, but with clarity. She understood now that love built on secrets is never love at all. Liam, too, had grown not just in age, but in understanding. He had learned that protecting someone doesn't always mean shielding them from pain. Sometimes it means standing firm, even when they don't see the danger. Their home became their sanctuary again. No more tension, no more doubt. Emma and Liam built their days with purpose, each one a step away from the past. There were still moments of reflection, of quiet, but they were no longer haunted by what had happened. They had faced the truth, accepted it, and moved on. In the end, the betrayal that could have fractured them only made them stronger. They had walked through it together, and together, they had emerged whole. Not untouched, but unbroken. And that was enough.